So we are looking at our last one, CSS Grid. It's set up like all of the other ones, and we're going to adjust that internal style sheet so that we use the CSS Grid responsive layout. So let's see, we need to add the box sizing. And that will just include the borders and the padding in the width, which is what we want. And then we need to add grid classes and a grid container. And I'm going to put this at the bottom. I usually put the mobile stuff at the bottom. Just because of the way CSS is, whatever you put on the bottom is the last thing it sees, so it should go into effect. So I'm going to put the little comment in here, grid classes. I'll get .top, grid area. And because I don't like to type, I like to keep these names pretty short. Grid area T for top. N for note. And I'm going to pause while I get all of these in here. All right, so I've got my grid areas set using classes, top, note, bottom, menu. These classes are what I put into the HTML. Okay, then I've got my grid container where I tell it the display is grid. And then for the grid template, this is where I am actually connecting the classes that are in my HTML have these grid areas defined, and I'm connecting to those grid areas. So this is where I'm connecting to the HTML and basically telling it how I want this laid out. So I'm using the top for the first row, or the section that has the top class. Then I'm using the section that has the menu class for the next row. Then the third is going to have the left class, the mid class, and the right class. Then the note class is going to go below that. And then at the very bottom, that I'm going to have, basically that should be in the footer, but the B is connecting to the bottom class. So this is the default. And then I'm going to do my little mobile grid. So in this case, my default is a desktop. Okay, and then I'm doing my mobile. And so you can see I've got a maximum width of 600 here. So anything below 600 is going to be this mobile display that I'm doing. And it's not that much different. I mean, I have my top section here, the notes, instead of being at the bottom, I have them on the second row. Then it's the left, middle, and right that really are different because I've got them on separate rows. And then I've got the menu near the bottom, and then of course the bottom section. Now, the number of letters that you put in here, you have to have the same number in each row. So I chose 6. For me, it was just easier to split up content with 6. Could I have done it with 3? Yes. Could I have wanted a little bit more finer control and done it with 9? Yes. Okay, so this is a number that you are picking, and whatever number you pick, you just have to make sure that you put the same number of letters in each row, and that the letters you have up here connecting to the classes, because this is what connects your HTML, the classes in your HTML to the actual grid template. That is how it connects. Okay, so if I wanted to change this to 3, I'm just going to show you how that it does work. You don't have to have 6. And they don't have to be evenly spaced either. Like obviously you can't have them like smashed next to each other with no space, but you have to have at least one space between, but it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 20. Other things to take note here is that there is no comma between these, right? You have an opening quote and an ending quote, and then you've got, you know, your letters. And then at the very bottom, you have a semicolon. So I'm going to save this. And we'll come over here and reload. Hopefully. Try doing it this way. Make sure I'm on the right one. It should be the same. All right, so let me, can't imagine it's pulling from the cache, but you never know. Oh, I know what I forgot. It's getting late, no wonder. So I still haven't put these classes in my HTML. See, even teachers forget this stuff. Okay, so here we go. Add the grid classes to your HTML. No wonder it doesn't work. Add class equal grid container to main. Alrighty, here we go. Put that in there. Add class equal menu. This is like critical. Obviously, you guys just saw, if you forget this, it does not work. I'll put that in here. Class equal note. And that goes into the aside down here. And then we've got left, middle, and right. And those go into the different articles. So the first one, doing left. And the next one, come on, cursor. And we'll put that in this one. And then the right goes into the bottom one. Article, here we go. Class of bottom goes into the footer. Good name for a footer class. And then we're going to do class of top to the header. There it is. Now, I'm going to save our changes. And we're going to reload this time, and voila, it works. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And you can see the aside is now down here because that's where we told it that we wanted it to display, which to me is one of the coolest things about this layout, because it's not, when you do this layout, you can totally change the order that things are displayed. So they're not displayed where they are initially rendered. So we have the aside up here. Okay, which, you know, logically that would display at the top, which it is doing in this little mobile view. But when we switch to desktop view, we have it display at the bottom, which to me is like such a cool thing that you can do with this layout. It's one of the reasons that I like it, because you have total control where things display. Okay, so they're not necessarily going to display where they are rendered, which to me is pretty cool. So this is probably my favorite layout, just because of that extra control that you have. But at this point, you guys are done with the layout reviews. Okay, so you've done a couple in CSS Grid, and you should be well familiar with Flexbox because we've been using it for a long time. And you've also got to do a couple pages in CSS or in Grid View. So next thing you need to do is FTP all of these to the server and make sure that you test them live. And that is what this is telling you. So this is basically what you have to key in, but your username is your NMC username.